Okay, it looks like we're live now, right?
Yep, we are.
Yay! Okay. So unfortunately, Renee wasn't able to join us at the last minute, so she will be posting a video later, I guess, when she gets the chance, and we'll just go ahead and discuss what we have.
Yeah, and I guess we will. Should we respond to her? Probably, huh?
We should. I think so.
Yep, I think that's what we should. Okay.
And we'll watch her video and respond. So hopefully that will meet our requirements. So,
Right. Or hopefully, yeah. Okay.
so here we go. Chapter 4 was basically about how to design effective instruction. Okay.
Right.
We were both commenting on we've read so much information that we're trying not to get it all confused.
Right. Although one of the things we are supposed to tie it into all of our tied into other classes. So if we do that, yay!
Yeah, well, I'm learning all sorts of theories in my stress management class that should help connect in, and I may actually use some of the tools in my workshop. So,
are you doing the stress management? Is that what you said?
Yeah, my other class is stress, family stress and coping, I think is the official title. But
I love that class. I took it last semester.
Oh, yeah, it's a good class. It works well with this class.
Yes, it does.
Tools and techniques. So, but I think I am going to use some of the techniques in my workshop, like the mindfulness and breathing and some of those things. So.
Right. Yeah, that's the one. That was one of my favorite ones, and to teach him to do that. And now, remind me what you're talking on?
I'm talking about processing grief and learning how to live again. So, breathing is a huge part of that, and learning to live in the present moment is also a big part of that, because it's so easy to get stuck in the past or fear of the future, or learning.
Yeah, and I'm talking about. I'm going to teach mothers about how to deal with their children when they, like just dealing with their children from day to day.
Okay.
And I'm going, mindfulness would be great.
Yes.
When the kid throws, a huge tantrum or whatever, you can take time to breathe for a minute before responding. So you can act and not react. Is that?
Yes, that's a very important skill as a mother, especially if you have special needs children.
Yes.
That's a huge skill I have had to learn over the years.
Yes, I'm going, okay, why didn't I not learn this years ago? That would have been helpful.
I wish I had learned it, well, I don't know. Maybe I learned it more effectively through my life experience, but it would have been less painful to learn it in other ways. Let me just put it that way.
Yes, I agree. So chapter 4,
yes.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it talked about the component display theory. It was the main thing.
Right.
About balancing between the. I like the part about where it talked about balancing between the participants and you.
Right.
That didn't always mean equal time.
Right.
And I went, oh.
Interaction, right.
Yeah.
Because that's important. Yeah, I love the stories, using stories to connect, and help people see how the principles apply to them. Because I think I didn't realize how much I teach with stories until I really stopped to think about, all the lessons I've taught over the years and how even in general conference, so much of their talks and things are taught through stories, and the Savior taught through parables. I mean, there's so many things that's really kind of how we're wired to learn, is seeing how it applies to other people. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. So hopefully my husband will field that call.
And I'm doing the advocacy class right now.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I think we read about stories in that, and how when you're writing a persuasive essay, you use story to persuade them, especially when you're advocating. You use like a story, and you use it with the story of me, the story of us, and the story of now what can we do.
Oh, wow. Okay.
To persuade them. So, and I think I'm going, was it the same time or the week after? I mean, it coincided like almost immediately. I'm going, okay, stories are important. And so, yeah, using stories. When I was reading about that, they had some information about how stories will connect with the brain better. And they actually will stay in the brain and reprogram the brain when you tell stories. And I'm going, wow. And you hold them captive, and it actually will open their brain up so that they can learn more.
Right. Well, and it keeps their attention.
Right. Yeah. It keeps their attention so that they can learn more and stuff. And it's like,
we totally get drawn into stories and kind of lost in stories in a way that we don't to like bullet pointed list, you know, at least I do.
Right. Yeah. You know, and I commented on that discussion board how that when I was reading about it, the thing that kept coming to my mind was Elder Bednar's talk about the pickles and about canning pickles.
Yeah.
I'm going, it was several years ago, but that story.
Right. Right.
And you apply it. And I'm going, yeah, stories are.
Right.
My problem is I have a hard time coming up with stories from myself and stuff. I'm going, I don't know why it's so hard to remember and come up with a story.
I have so many stories. I sometimes think I overshare and kind of overwhelm my poor little Sunday school class sometimes. But one of my widow friends was saying, you know, the way to learn things is through other people's experiences because it's not nearly as painful that way. And I thought, you know, that's part of the power of sharing stories with each other is it does let us learn through other people's experiences. Even the fictional stories or the made-up stories, you know, will give us a way to kind of play out various scenarios and see how the pieces connect. Anyway, but yeah. I also had.
But that was one of the things they talked about in what we were reading too, was them sharing.
Right.
And when they all share, then you learn from other people, and then you kind of put it together. Right. And that's how we learn from everybody else's experiences and stories and what they did and what did work and didn't work, so that that's one of the ways that people learn.
Right. Well, I think that's part of the importance of balancing the participation, because when people share their stories and other people from the audience can connect with them, you know, and you can bring it all together as a facilitator, it's really powerful.
Right.
It can be scary sometimes as the you know, I don't know. I want to say administrator, but that's not the right word. But, you know, as the moderator or the presenter, to bring other people's stories in, because when people raise their hand, you have no idea what they're going to say.
Yes, yes.
If you've ever taught a church class before, you've had some practice in, you know, connecting the comments that are really helpful and thanking them for the ones and redirecting it if necessary. You know?
Right. Or you've taught a class enough that you know that when that one person raises their hand, you better be prepared because it's not anything to.
Right. I guess that's the downside to, like, I'm teaching my workshop all in one setting, so I'm not really going to have an ongoing, you know, other than the widows that I interact with every month. I'll know them a little bit, but anyone that comes through my advertising through other methods, I may or may not, other than like getting to know them, like when they walk in the door and kind of just asking questions throughout, you know, I'll have to kind of gauge that throughout.
Right. Yeah.
But it talks about what are some ways to create that balance between you know, us and our participants as we go throughout the workshop.
I think one thing is to watch to make sure that one person isn't always asking this, or always volunteering, always asking the question, you know, so it's always one person.
Right.
And making sure that, you know, if they really get into discussion, that you keep it under control and not let it get completely out of control or out of context. or go on and on and on and on and on and on and on.
Right.
I think that's one way to balance it.
Right.
What do you think?
I'm trying to figure out the whole, like, I kind of want to ask some questions about their experiences or what parts of it they want to focus on. And Sister Beswell's really encouraging me not to do that because I could get in over my head, which is a valid point. But at the same time, I'm not really sure how to engage them and pull them into the workshop. I thought about just having them, tell me which ones that they would like to focus on more. And there again, she was like, you may get yourself in trouble with that. So I'm trying to find the questions because I think it's important to find a good way to ask the questions to engage them and to pull the responses. And the more I read, the more I saw how important it was to ask the questions with an idea in mind of where you want to lead them with the questions. But I haven't quite
chapter 5 or 6. I can't remember.
That might be 6 or 7. I don't know. It was one of the last ones I read. But having an idea in mind of how you want to lead them, or I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how to engage them and let them share their experiences. Maybe it's more of a letting them share their experiences and their suggestions rather than inviting them to ask me, what they want to learn. So maybe that's the shift that needs to happen, is more just if there's something that's been helpful or meaningful to them, or they have a relevant story, if they wouldn't mind sharing, I think that might add.
I think you're right. So here's so you would teach like a concept or whatever, and then say, have any of you had an experience with this?
Right.
Or something like that, and have them share that way.
Right. Maybe inviting them to share experiences is more helpful than asking them what they want to learn or if they have questions or things like that.
Right. Yeah.
So, because I do want that dynamic, because it's so fun to learn from other widows and they have so much wisdom, and I love it. And so I want that group participation and that interaction, and I think everyone will benefit from it. But yeah, I think you're right.
So maybe what she meant was, some of the open-ended questions, what do you want to learn, may not be anything of
it could take us completely off track, which is it's a really good point, and I'm glad she's making me think through this before
But then on the other hand, you go, but wait, okay, we're now off track. Now I've got to find another road.
Right. Yeah. And I do want to preference all of this with, the grief process is so individual. One of my friends sent me a really neat chart I think I am going to use. That's got like all of the steps lined up and how it's supposed to happen. And then they're like, my grief journey is like, all over the place, and it just scribbles between all the different stages and steps, because really that's more what it's like. It's not anything like check.
Yeah. And when you see things like that, these are the steps to take, and our minds are programmed to go, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And go down through it.
And there's there's no 7 easy steps to grieving or anything like that,
Right.
There's no
or you do this part of it for this long.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
I do want to discuss the myth of the 1 year at some point. I forgot to put that in my outline, but I got to 1 year and I was like, okay, shouldn't something be different now? There's supposed to be something magic that somehow, I'm all better because it's been a year, and I wasn't, and it was like, and intellectually, I guess on some level, I knew there wasn't something magical about it. It's kind of like having a birthday, and my daughter's like, should I feel different now that I'm 15? And I'm like, not dramatically. The changes come in smaller increments over time. And I guess with the same way with the grieving process, there isn't necessarily anything inherently magical about making it through that first year. It's just another one of the milestones along the way. So, but various myths, you know, and things that people have found. So it's interesting. I guess the other thing I really liked was they talked about how, you know, address real problems and help your participants see, you know, how does this apply to my daily life? Because everyone is so busy nowadays that if you're not and there's so much information overload out there, that if you're not giving them something like that's immediately applicable that they can put into practice right away, it'll be another nice workshop they went to, and you know, that was a nice time, and they forget it and they move on with their life, because our lives are just so information overloaded right now that it's hard to incorporate things into our lives unless they're easy and they fit and we can see the connection, you know. And so I guess that's our job, is to kind of break it down into those pieces so that the people we're teaching can see the connections and see how to put it into their lives.
Right. So that goes into the, like, is that in chapter 5 where they talk about the art of teaching?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
And where he talks about how
the effective instruction principle.
Yeah, and how you break it down so that they actually learn it.
Right. Yeah. How to engage.
Practice the principles. They overlearn the principle, so that, you know, and ask themselves questions, so that, okay, will this actually be respectful? Will this be, you know, or however it is that will fit with yours,
right.
So that they've got triggers to go, wait, in this, rather than just doing what they used to.
Mm-hmm.
I liked how they first said, you know, ask them, so in this situation, what would you usually do?
Right.
How do you usually react?
Right.
Okay, so now how can we know that that's going to happen and change that, and then practice it?
Right. The role play could be particularly powerful in yours with practicing mindful parenting.
Right, yeah. I like the one, what was it called? The fishbowl?
Yeah, I'd never heard that one before. That was interesting.
And I thought that would be interesting too, to do that for parenting, or maybe even for yours, to have a discussion back and forth, or, you know, kind of like it described.
I'll have to go back and review that a little bit more, because I thought it was more about kind of observing the way that the inner group was responding or reacting. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, but you know, maybe that might be, but as you said that, I thought that might be a way to practice.
Yeah.
You know, so people are actually observing it and going, oh, okay, and then they're being observed.
Yeah, depends on how big of a group you have too.
Right. You know, if you only got 2 people, you're not going to do a fishbowl.
Exactly. Yeah, if you have, you know, a good sized group and you want everyone participating, you know, but role play can be really powerful. You know, having role play something with their neighbor and then talk about their experience, I think, can be a powerful way of learning.
Yeah. I also use in some of my teaching, I don't know that it actually said that in here, but I have done what I call turn and talk. So you turn to your neighbor and talk, and sometimes they will open up to somebody next to them rather than a whole group of people.
Right.
And, you know, or, you know, and so the turn and talk and discussing.
I don't remember what they called that, but I think they did talk about having small groups and small group discussions.
Right, yeah.
And I think, yeah, it's a similar principle. But yeah, I've done that in workshops, and that's actually a really powerful way to kind of integrate, because when you talk about something, I think you integrate it deeper than when you just listen. And when you have that smaller group engagement, I mean, not only do you get to know the people around you a little bit better, but you also get to kind of strengthen those connections a little bit more, I think. Right,
yeah. Or even, you could even do the turn and talk or the really small group and have them teach it, because that's one of they talked about, that was one of the ways to get them to remember it, is to have okay, so take this principle and teach it to this person, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
How would you teach it? How would you present it? How would you, anyway, something like that.
Right.
There are lots of interesting ways to get them engaged and
Right.
keep them engaged.
Right. You don't want to just be standing up at the front of the room clicking through a PowerPoint presentation, going over the bullet points. And not that I would do that anyway, but it's interesting to learn about all the different tools and the ways of engaging them and getting them involved. One thing that was interesting to me was when I asked about the role of the Holy Ghost in learning, you know, and if it applies when we'll be working with non-LDS audiences or just basic, you know, people from the community. And I guess I never really thought about that before, because I'm like, well, of course the Holy Ghost is involved. The Holy Ghost is involved whenever people are teaching or learning about true principles. It may or may not stay with those people, but, you know, you know, as instructors and active members of the church, we have the gift of the Holy Ghost, and he can testify of truth in the people that we're teaching. So I guess it just never occurred to me that it wouldn't be a part of, you know.
You can still have it.
So,
and you're right. You know, they have the light of Christ.
Right.
That, you know, that he can still touch them and let them know this is truth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I just never even thought. I guess I love learning through BYU Idaho because of the emphasis on teaching and learning through the Spirit.
Yes.
And it creates the learning like exactly on my level in a way that I've never really experienced through any other institution where I've attended school. And so I guess I've gotten so used to that I'm just like, well, why wouldn't you teach and learn that way? Because it's awesome. And, you know, it's just so much more effective for everyone involved. So.
Right. Yeah.
So,
you know, and I would personally go, you know, I would probably pray beforehand to say, please help me.
Yes.
Please help me remember, please help me, you know, because I want it, whether I'm teaching anybody that's LDS, I want that with me.
Exactly. Well, I need the inspiration and the knowledge of what to say and the, you know, all of the guidance, as well as, you know, they need it, the Holy Ghost to carry the truth to their hearts and help, you know, help it sink in on the level you need it to. So.
Yeah. And he can help us as the instructors recall or bring up something that might be relevant that we may not have actually put in our notes. But as they're talking or whatever, and he can inspire us to go, oh, and you know, there's this principle here.
Right. I learn so much when I teach by the Spirit, because those connections come, you know, in the moment. And I know they don't come from my own brain.
Right.
They come from the knowledge that I put in there being brought forth through the Spirit. But those and the interaction with other people, the connections together. You know, that I keep going back to that principle of synergy and how important it is for us to connect with other people and build those relationships.
Yeah.
It's been a really important theme I've seen.
Didn't that talk about it in our books that we need to build a relationship with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went into that. You know, that was one thing that I really liked. There's so much information here that I'm just...
Oh, I know.
But I did like, you know, learners will learn best when they're neither bored nor overstimulated. And
yes.
So I thought about that. I teach the 14 and 15-year-olds, and I think there's sometimes that I try to throw everything I know at them just because I'm so excited that I have it and I have the opportunity to share with them. And by the end of class, they're all like,
they're comatose.
I'm just like, oh, maybe I might want to like tone it down a little bit, put it more on their level, and like not necessarily just because I know it doesn't mean that I need to teach it to them in that moment, you know. And so kind of learning how to, we had a really good training my husband and I went to over the weekend, and he was really good about saying, you know, just give them the basic that they need to know and don't send them off on all these other tangents, because just because you know all this additional stuff doesn't mean that you need to spew it all over everyone you talk to. You know, and it really started me thinking about how important it is to know our audience and to really try to meet them on their level, because by the time we get done studying all of this stuff, we're going to know a lot more than they will. And just because I read all of these different theories and whatever doesn't mean that the people I'm teaching want to know all of the different research that's been done and all of the different things that I've
Right. All the different family theories and all the
right. And it used the ABCX model, and
right, exactly. And the double ABC, yeah.
I'm not there yet, but we'll be there soon.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're not there yet.
Yeah, or cognitive behavior support, or all of these big words that they'll be like, what?
Right.
But yeah, I do like the ideas of getting them involved, prepare ourselves, learn how to read the students. One thing that I really liked was being more sensitive to differences that exist within individuals and families.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, I just got called as a single adult rep in our ward. My husband and I are actually single adult reps, which is super fun. But I connect with them because I've been in and out of the singles program so many times. But on the other hand, there's such a diverse range of needs within the single adult program of the church.
Right.
And so I'm really excited to get to know all of these individuals and learn how to represent their needs and how to bring them together and all these things. I mean, and I think as we come to really appreciate the individuals who we have the opportunity to teach, it'll give us a greater reverence for this work and what we're doing and the influence and the impact we can have in people's lives. And so.
Yeah, what was it? It was, what did they say? You need
I know
respect.
there was respect, yeah, reciprocity, or I don't know how to say it. Reciprocity is how I'd say it, and responsiveness.
Right, yeah.
That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. Relevance, respect, and participation. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but they need to reciprocate back and forth too, or it doesn't work.
Do you need to take a mommy moment?
What is your problem here? She's got. Hang on here. Okay, there we go. Her sweater, and she's got a front thing for her bra, and her sweater got caught. Anyway, okay.
Poor thing.
There we go. So yeah, it was. What were some of the other things that I
was gonna say before we move on, I liked the respect, that people do things for a reason that makes sense to them.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it doesn't make sense to us, it makes sense to them.
Right.
And learning how to respect that. My husband is such a master at that. He's so good at connecting with everybody and kind of finding out why they're doing what they're doing and really just talking to them instead of jumping to a conclusion or an assumption. And I'm not quite as good at that as he is. And so
what an awesome gift.
Yes, he is. He's really masterful in his listening skills and his ability to connect with people. So I'm learning from that. And then I also like that every person has experience and perceptions that are of value.
Right.
I forget where it even was. I think it might have been in the reading from way back where it talked about the different theories of how we look at people and different presentation methods. But one thing that stuck out to me was, I do believe in the inherent worth of all the people that I'm teaching and the value of their experiences, and that everyone has, light and truth and knowledge and experience and wisdom that they can share, whether they realize it or not.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. That was one thing that I was impressed with too, because, sometimes you can say, okay, so what does this look like to you?
Mm-hmm.
And they have got, and they'll say something and it's like, that doesn't even make sense. But to them, it makes sense.
Right.
Because of their experience and the way they are and everything else. That's how they connected with it. And so as facilitators or teachers or whatever we're called, when you build on that, then it builds their confidence.
Right.
So taking, all the diversity and building on that, and it builds everyone's confidence.
Right.
I liked how they pointed that out.
Exactly. And I think, I don't know, was there something else you wanted to share? I just feel like
I know we're almost out of time. Dang.
I'll let you do some of yours.
I don't know what chapter I'm even in. What chapter am I in here? Hang on. Oh, in chapter 5. Okay. Isn't that what we're at? No, we're in chapter 5. I don't know where we're at.
I don't know. I think I skipped to 6 or 7 or somewhere.
I know. We skipped all over, which is great because we tied it all together.
Right.
Yes. Okay. It was talking about, it says, in fact, insightful psychologist Martin, Seligman suggested that our growth may be more tied to effectively using our strength than to remodeling our weaknesses. In fact, our strengths may define our weaknesses. We may not be able to surgically remove our weaknesses without damaging our strengths. And I thought, how perfect to go with Ether 12:27, where it says, the Lord has given us weaknesses and strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And he will, he gives us weaknesses so that we are humble and we grow and everything. So as a teacher, as we look at what we think may be a weakness, it could be something that can really strengthen them, and not to get rid of the weaknesses, but build on them.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
So I thought that was one of my aha, like, what? Read that again. That was profound.
Right. Well, and to focus on our strengths, we don't do that nearly as much as we could in today's society.
Right.
It's all about the quick fix for everything that's wrong.
Right. Yeah.
More so than, really loving ourselves and appreciating the things we do well. And a lot of people are hungry for that recognition, for someone seeing the things that they're doing right and the things they're doing well. Yeah.
And I think one of the things, I don't know if they talked about it, but a thought that just came to me as a facilitator or a teacher or whatever, as we're teaching these people and these families, I think one of our jobs is to help them see that they are okay. They are of worth. They're doing okay.
Right.
And maybe this is, and it's normal. Everybody else here in this room is in the same boat. Right. You're not alone. And helping them see that.
Right. I think that's especially powerful for people who are grieving, because it's so inward driven that when we open ourselves up and expand out again and connect with other people, it can have powerful healing properties to really be able to open ourselves and connect again, because it's a really vulnerable thing. We tend to close ourselves off and nurse our wounds for a while after we've really been hurt, but at some point, in order to really heal, we have to learn to open again. So
yeah, exactly.
I think that will be a profound part of learning how to connect with other people and support other people is really important.
Mm-hmm.
So
anything else that was
Yeah. I guess the one thing I liked, there was an analogy. I think it might have been in the CES manual, but it talked about the teacher up talking and lecturing kind of being like um, the part of the necklace that holds the beads,
Oh, yes.
kind of strings everything together. You know, if you just do that, you're going to have a really boring necklace. But you don't want it to be so overcrowded that, you know, so you need a balance of, like, you know, maybe using the board or an object or a picture or an activity or music, or, you know, you kind of need a balance of all of the different elements.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think that that's important to have some sort of visual, to have things where people can take notes, because people learn through different methods too, and the more different methods you can have, the more likely you are to connect with more people without, you know, just overwhelming everything.
Right. Yes.
And so trying to find that balance, I think, is part of our challenge as teachers.
Yeah. But you don't want it so busy that they're overwhelmed with all the
Right.
and the handout and yeah. So you're
Right.
right. There's a balance there.
And that's where you need to kind of be able to gauge, okay, how are they receiving this? How fast can I go? Do I need to slow it down? Do I need to
Yeah.
do I need to say more about this to really let it sink in? You know, and I think that's kind of where the art of great presenters is they'll check with the audience regularly, be like, one of the one masters I'm learning from, he'll ask a lot of times in his seminars, is that okay? You know, and it just kind of, you know, is that okay? You know, it just kind of, are we on the same page? Are you with me? You know, and I don't know, that's just his particular phrase, but I think finding whatever that phrase is to say, you know, are you with me? You got this? Do we need,
Right.
you know, have questions? Where are we at? You know?
Right. Yeah. You know, and I don't know. I know she wants us to have it pretty well structured,
Right.
stuff, but I think that I think there should also be some flexibility in that, so
Right.
that if you really don't get it all covered, they've learned what they needed to learn.
Right. Well, and I think she understands that we're going to be
Well, I
interacting.
think so too, because we've talked about flexibility and being, you know, kind of.
Right. Right. I think it's good to
kind of what you're gonna do, but
right, plan it and structure it as much as possible. And I think what she's really going to help us do with her feedback is help us kind of lead the conversation as much as possible and put tools and stuff in place to kind of help keep us on track.
Right. Yes, I think so too.
And pre-approving, of course, any handouts and any slides and any videos and all of that stuff will help.
Right.
So
yeah.
Yeah, there's all of this.
She's here.
Me too. And I'm glad that she's explained the process for the class and that it's graded the way that it is. And so she can give us so much feedback. And so I've really this is the first class I've taken where I'm not like checking my grades and seeing how I'm doing, because I'm like, you know, it doesn't reflect where I'm really at anyway.
Right.
And
yeah. You're right.
So knowing that, I can just like not worry about that while I try to focus on all of the pieces I'm trying to bring together. So
right. Yeah.
I was really glad that they laid out those expectations clearly. And I went to that internship thing.
Yeah, so did I.
Yesterday. I thought I saw you there. And I left somewhat inspired. I'm still not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I want to look for something local before I do anything online. But one of the things that stood out to me was he talked, or maybe it was Sister Buswell that talked about getting out in your community and teaching as much as you can. And so at our single rep meeting last night, they're always looking for presenters and people at our annual singles conference that they have here in Independence.
Oh, right.
I was like, well, if you want, I'm working on my degree in marriage and family studies. I'm going to be trained in how to give workshops. This is the workshop I'm preparing and giving. So I'm supposed to email all of that to our stake rep, and we'll see what happens. But
Oh, cool.
I would have never done that before. And so
Right.
the timing of it and the spirit prompting me and all of those things kind of came together. And I'm just like, okay, here we go. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of funny. Well, not funny, but I had a meeting today with my daughter's DVR counselor that's helping her find work and get all the stuff that she needs because she's handicapped.
Uh-huh.
And after we got done on the way home, because several times she would say, yeah, the parents don't know about this, and they kind of find out by, haphazardly, or they just happen to stumble on it. On the way home, I'm going, wait a minute, why not? See if they need like a workshop or something for these families that have handicapped kids who don't know what is out there in the community to help them.
That would be perfect. I wish there was something like that here.
And I'm going, I'm like you, I was struggling going, what? Where? What do we do? What? Ah! I'm going, but it was interesting, but I was glad to hear, kind of what it was supposed to be, that it was supposed to be more teaching or writing or teaching rather than going to a business and just working for them type of a thing.
Right. Yeah, I think I'm going to reach out to some of the local hospices and just kind of see what they have and just see what I can put together. It sounds like maybe you can work with the disability coordinator that your daughter works with and see if you can work into a position with them, because that would be
that would be awesome.
Such an awesome internship and such a need in the community, because I learned so much from other parents of disabled children. I actually learn more from them. Well, I take that back. I do. My daughter does have a really active service coordinator right now, so I do find out quite a bit from her now. But before, it was always roundabout through other parents.
Right.
Through
you just happen to be talking about something, and they go, "Oh yeah," and you're going,
right.
"What?
Right.
Where?"
Right. And even when I was lucky enough to be working with organizations that worked with people with disabilities, there was still a lot I didn't know about. And I'm like, well, how, when you're struggling so much with just meeting their day-to-day needs, how are you supposed to have time to go and research everything that's out there?
Right. Yeah.
And because it's overwhelming to be a parent, especially a single parent of children with special needs,
Right. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, I think there's a huge need there. That would be a really awesome internship if you can work that out.
Yeah, so I thought maybe anyway, we'll check it out.
Yeah, very good. All right, well, I need to let you go because I need to really fast and get on to my next class meeting, but.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm going, oh, well, yes, we need to end this. So, all right, thank you. I think we had a great discussion.
Yes, thank you so much. Good luck with everything.
All righty, you too.
All right, thanks.
Uh-huh.